Good morning, students. Today we are on part B of chapter 2. This is dealing with joint Hindu family business, which is again a non-incorporated form of business. It is non-incorporated form of business. That means business is not having separate entity. As you could see in the picture on the slide, it's a family business with 3 generations together. Now, joint in the family business refers to a business which is owned by the members of joint Hindu family. It is formed under Hindu family law and is governed by the law of succession. It is a form of business in which family possesses some inherent property. Inherited property means it means ancestral property. The Karta is the eldest member of the family, and the other male members are the co-pansiers of it. If we see, joint in the family is the only form of business which is found in India only. It's not found in any other country. It prevails only in India. It is governed by 2 schools of thought, Deyabhaga and Mitakshara. Deyabhaga is prevalent in West Bengal and Assam, and as per this, the son acquires the right of family property only after the death of his father. Whereas in Mitakshara, it is prevalent in rest part of India, in which the son acquires the right in the family property right from his birth. By the virtue of his birth, he gets that right. Now, normally what happens, students, they get confused in the two. So the best way as a colloquial version to remember is in Deyabhaga, normally Bengalis, they call their elder brother Dada. So that way, Dada Deyabhaga is for West Bengal, Assam, and Mitakshara is for the rest part of India. Now, if you see the characteristics of a joint in the family business, number 1, the membership is acquired by birth for a male child. We are coming first to the core characteristics, then we'll go to the controversies. Next is management. The eldest member of the family, that is the Karta, manages the business. Now, liability part. The Karta has unlimited liability, but the members have limited liability. Get this point? If the question is what is the nature of liability existing in joint Hindu family business, it will consist of 2 parts. Karta having unlimited liability and members having limited liability. That means a Karta, in order to fulfill the needs of the business obligations, might ask his wife to get her ornaments to be sold. But he cannot say his son and daughter-in-law to do the same because the liability of the son is limited to the extent of his share in the business. It is up to the Karta to decide what share he wants to give. So usually you will find that when we talk of demerit, the biggest demerit is there is no effort-reward relationship. There is no effort-reward relationship. The reason being, as a father, you would never like to see one child having 5-course meal and second starving for a loaf of bread. And if one child is mentally retarded or handicapped, you would definitely have a soft corner and would like to give him more share even though his contribution is zero in the business. So in absence of this effort reward relationship, you'll find problem comes. But right now we are on the characteristics, so we'll again focus on it. As far as the limit, there is no limit to the number of co-pansiers. And the membership is limited to 3 successive generations. Now here most of the giant business entities, Tatas and others, they started with this form and later on they converted it to other form. Then minors. A male child at the time of the birth becomes a co-pansier. So a minor can be a member in joint Hindu family business. Then this business is not affected by the death of a member. The business will continue even after the death of a co-pansier. Now we come down to this gender inequality which was there, and now with the amendment of Act, gender equality, there has been variations, and this point usually goes with certain controversies also. This goes with certain controversies also. If we see in this, let us consider gender wise, if triangle we consider as a male person and circle as a female. Just see the two sons having their spouses, and then comes the third in the form of the daughter, and then again it is going to get bifurcated at the second generation with the spouse coming in. Now here what happens, a daughter-in-law is there as a member, but she cannot be a karta, and an unmarried daughter initially was considered not to be a part of family business after marriage. But till she is not married, she is an active participant because we move in patriarchal system of society. In patriarchal system of society, this has been a matter of controversy as well as debate, even as on date. And that is why, to avoid these controversies, what happens? People prefer converting this form of business into partnership or some other form where due rights are being given to female, whether they are in the form of a daughter-in-law or daughter. Now, if we see the merits and demerits, merits definitely will find that there's stability because family business, in the name of family, you put your best. And if the karta is dominant, which usually happens to be, the control is effective. There's loyalty and cooperation. Since family business, the name should not go down, even if a child sitting in absence of the grown-up person on that business table goes with a deal, his commitment is to be fulfilled. And membership part is very easy. By birth itself you get. Then if you talk of demerit, the fund is limited to the extent of the family property, ancestral property, or your capacity to borrow. Then, being a family business, you don't want externals to be in the management, and every possibility you don't have a management expert. So there's a lack of managerial skill. Unlimited liability of karta becomes a risk because we say he's the sole decision making authority. He's the sole decision making authority. He can take suggestions, but ultimately he will do what he feels is justified. So there, his unlimited liability at times forces him to take up decisions which he is not willing to take under the pressure of the members or the children. Then is limited membership. You cannot take an outsider. Now even an adopted child, please. Adopted child, put it, is to be a part of the property of the father. He will get the property, but not he will not be a part of the family business. Then legal status part, there's no separate entity. There's uncertainty in the life and misuse of power. Coercion, what we say, undue influence by the karta might lead to wrong decisions. Now, if we say legal formalities involved, now this normally they have not touched much, but as a student of commerce, you should know, and for entrepreneurship students, this part is in detail. Capital and the members. For Hindu undivided family to be created, capital is to be there in the form of ancestral property, assets gifted by relatives and friends or received by Hindu undivided family through a will. And minimum at least 2 members have to be there. Then you have to take up a suitable name. And usually entrepreneurs select a proper name. You'll find X, Y, Z and Sons. It's a very common pattern, they put that way. But you have to see that it does not violate the law or any other negative impact on the society. Then it should be in the form of a deed which includes all the terms and conditions regarding profit sharing ratio. This provides a proper legal protection, disclosing the name of the karta, co-pansel's address and the source of fund in the corpus. Then is you have to apply for a PAN. It is an important step to be undertaken, and after executing the deed, the karta is required to get this PAN so that your financial transactions could be traced out. So PAN is a mandatory requirement, whether in sole proprietor or here also. Then opening a bank account. The karta is required to open the bank account in the name of Hindu undivided family, not on his personal name. It is also advisable to get some stationery printed for official communication. Now, this Hindu undivided family is ready to function. The karta will have to invest in tax saving. I'll be talking about some amazing facts in which this taxation part I'll take up. Tax saving instruments and file tax return on behalf of the Hindu undivided family. Only money related transaction to the business of Hindu undivided family shall be invested in such bank accounts. Now, let us see some of the interesting facts. First, the daughter after her marriage ceases to be a member of her father's Hindu undivided family and business. After marriage, she becomes a member of her husband's Hindu undivided family. Then, second, what I said, adopted child can become the member, but he cannot become a co-pansier. He cannot become a co-pansier. Then, Hindu undivided continues to exist in the hands of female members after the death of the male members. A widow cannot be the karta of Hindu undivided family as she is not a co-pansier. Then fifth, which is the most important part, that even though we say Hindu undivided family business is a non-incorporated body, no separate entity, but is the separate entity for income tax purpose under the special provision of Section 2, subsection 31 of Income Tax Act. Now, with this, from our side, whatever is concerned with your CBSE curriculum is over. But as far as the gender equality part is there are still many controversies which are there and have not yet been sorted out. There are daughters who are taking care of the family business. So generally they prefer converting the form of business rather than going into the controversies. Thanks. Stay connected for further updates. Please like, share and subscribe if you feel it is worth it. Thank you.